Alrighty. Good morning. It's Monday. It's 4 a.m. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. I'm Travis Neville. I wrote this book over here called The Jossman Method. Look, I got this cool little book stand. I think that's pretty dope, so I wanted to use that. And also, another new feature here. If my tech is going right, I have a subscribe button right there. It's blue. If you guys would hit that, I'd appreciate it. I don't have very many subscribers. I think I have like 30. But hey, you'll know when I drop a new video. Basically every Monday morning at 4, but occasionally I'm out of town or something like that and I can't get to it. Or I might drop another clip during the middle of the week sometimes, that kind of thing. I want to start dropping stuff that's a little shorter, just a little more bite-sized, if you will. But yeah, click that and, helps me, right? More subscribers. Good. Like YouTube will push me up the rankings and shit like that, which is good. So yeah, a couple new features there. And so I was talking last week with Ryan Bills from Blue Collar Clothing Company, and I'm repping his brand here. This is one of his. This is Blue Collar Clothing. Here's his what's this one? That's his logo there, and I thought this was cool. We're on the same page, which is kind of neat about things. Anyway, we were talking about the de-evolution of men, and we started talking about it, and that went well. I didn't expect it to go poorly. The guy thinks like I do, so does his dad. That was easy. But later in the night, I didn't share this with you, but I was talking with his wife and her friend, both women, and his wife in particular. She's very accomplished. She's a judge. She's academically accomplished. She's a badass. She's really impresses me as a person. Regardless, man, woman, she's just pretty badass. And she seemed to like this theme, this idea that I was talking about. And so I figured if I could slide it past her, it might be okay. So, yeah, let's start talking about it. So speaking of the women thing, as I talk about the de-evolution of man, I want to contrast that to what's happening with women in our society, which I would say it's the evolution of women. Women are becoming more and more and more strong, more and more able. It's really cool to watch. Women have made such tremendous strides and impacts in our society, and it's pretty much all been positive. It's been a great thing. It's made us as Americans, and I'm not sure exactly how it happens in other cultures, but women have been awesome. And I would track it back 100 years and tell you, 1920, the 19th Amendment comes through. That's when women got the right to vote. And yeah, you're probably shocked. Holy shit. In the 1900s. So like 100 years ago, women couldn't vote. Yeah, it's pretty new. And then in the 1930s, we got the Great Depression comes around, and there's a pretty famous picture of this very careworn faced woman, and she's got her daughter there, her kid, and it's the Dust Bowl and all this shit. And I think at that time, it's just kind of everybody had to do everything. I mean, the gloves were off, the roles kind of went away, and everybody had to do what they had to do. So women got a little strong. In the 40s, right? So now we're dealing with World War II. Our country gets attacked. And at that time, I'll tell you, men were fucking men. They were tough. They were strong. They had roles. They had purpose. They had manhood. That was the greatest generation. Bad motherfuckers who took care of business. Stormed the beach at Normandy. Facing almost certain death. Didn't give a shit. Scared to death. Did it anyway. Because that's what was expected of you as a man. Now, not so today. Okay. Anyway, during that time, while men were overseas, women had to jump into the factory roles. And there's a famous picture of the woman with the, she's got the, do-rag on her head, and she's like, we can do this, and she's holding a wrench or whatever. Women got stronger there. So the men come back, we win the war, they come back, and we're looking at tremendous economic prosperity in the United States. And for quite a while after that, all the way through the 50s into the 60s, things were going great. People had lots of money, washers and dryers, a Chevrolet or two in every driveway. We were looking at the best economic prosperity our country had ever seen, ever, and put us at the highest standard of living of any country in the world, which is pretty awesome. And that's, I think, really in part to women going, oh, men are going to go fight? Well, we'll take care of shit here. We'll help run the factories, and we'll help do all this shit. So kudos to women. So now and then you're looking at also in the 50s, in 1957, the FDA approves the birth control pill. and that gave women a lot of liberation and a lot of ability to control their own destinies, and really helped, because imagine that as a woman, you just couldn't control whether or not you were going to have more kids. It's completely up to your husband or whatever. Anyway, 60s and 70s, we got the women's liberation movement. All kinds of things are happening. Women get stronger and stronger. In the 80s, I can remember movies, guys talking about, oh, we need to be, women want sensitive men who are in touch with their feelings. And that's what men were talking about in the 80s, because women were becoming, again, stronger and stronger and stronger. And men started to, I think that kind of started to decline right there, okay? Like when they started trying to pick up female traits, I think that's kind of when it started to go downhill. So then, you just move on into the current day, the Me Too movement, all these things where women are just, it's a strong, powerful thing that's happening. And I think a lot of men are like, whoa, shit, I don't want to get in the way of that. You know what I mean? And I don't like that, not saying anything specific about women, more saying men have become weaker. Now, am I just saying that? No, I'm not. I've got fucking research. As I started looking into this shit, I was like, well, let's see. I mean, are men actually getting weaker? Well, let's just look at like physical strength, okay? So the Washington Post highlighted a study showing, they were talking about grip strength, okay? Just grip strength, but believe it or not, grip strength actually predicts a lot of other shit. Like, it predicts a lot of, so think about it. I mean, what kind of work are you going to do where you're not using your hands, right? So if you're moving some shit, yeah, you're using your hands, but you're probably using everything else. So if you have a strong grip, probably most of you is strong as well, all right? Like, I'm thinking, it was yesterday. I'm at Home Depot, and I'm loading up, I'm going to build some new decks on my cabin up north. I'm loading up these 12-foot pressure-treated 2x8s. And those fuckers are probably, I think they're like 83 pounds a piece is what I looked up. And, I'm grabbing them and stacking them on my cart. And there's this, 110-pound girl there. And I'm thinking, she couldn't do this. Like, there's no way she could do this. And so I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'm doing it right. I've created and maintained physical strength, one of the marks of manhood. And so I can do this work, and whereas a woman can't. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But so grip strength between 1985 and 2016, so about 30 years in there, and it was a sample of college men. Okay, so that's not every man. All right, so the guys, everybody knows that. Some people go to college, some people go to work, and the guys who are working, my guess, if they were in the mix, they probably these numbers would be a little bit different. But on average, in 1985, again, also just dealing with college men. In 1985, if you guess the average grip strength of men, it was 175 pounds, or 117 pounds of force they could make with their grip, right? 117. And then in 2016, same guys, same colleges, grip strength had decreased to 98 pounds. Okay, that's a pretty big drop. That's the average. So everybody's getting weaker, certainly among college men, right? Which, weirdly, that number, okay, that 98 pounds, that's about the average grip strength of a 30-year-old mother. Yeah, so college boy, So yes, men have physically gotten weaker. Men in general have gotten weaker endurance-wise as well. Let's look at the similar study, but looking at running the mile, okay, in high school. So in 1985, going from 1985 to 2016, so about a 30-year span of time, the average male mile time had gone up by 90 seconds. That's a minute and 30. That's the average male mile time. So if the average, I don't know what the times are, it doesn't say in the study here, but imagine in 1986, and shit, I was probably running a mile. I was 10 years old. I don't know if we were doing physical testing yet, but, that's probably high sixes, something like that. So say, and now it would be like low eights. Holy shit. Like that's like a mile long mosey, so physically weaker strength wise, physically weaker endurance wise. Okay. So men physically definitely have gone downhill. Okay. There's no doubt about that. And I would tell you, There is no excuse for that. There's no nobility in weakness. Like, you have this incredible advantage physically, these broad shoulders and these narrow hips and this ability to develop muscle and strength. And if you don't use that, I ask you as a guy, what is your value? What is your use? And when I say value, I mean this. What is your value to a partner? What makes you uniquely useful to a woman? Outside of your ability to give her some kids and maybe give her a paycheck for a while. Okay, what makes you useful on the long term? Okay? So let's think about that. Today, I mean, everybody knows this. If you get divorced, your wife's getting your kids. I mean, unless she's a crackhead, that's what's going to happen. The woman's going to get the kids. So at that point, I would think, so if I'm a woman and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be able to keep my kids and probably be able to keep my house because I'm going to get him to pay for it. The fuck do I need this guy for? He gave me the kids and he's going to pay me to pay off the house or give me child support or, what spousal support. What do they really need you for, bro? Ask yourself that. What are you bringing in besides a paycheck and some sperm? You know what I'm saying? Women, they don't need you, right? At that point, you've filled your use. Now, and again, not a shot on women at all. If I were a woman, and I'm not, and I would want a manly dude, I would hope somebody who can lift those big boards at Home Depot, who can, protect me, who can protect a woman. I mean, I did some research on this. It was an anthropologist, female anthropologist, and she was talking about one of the roles that men have. Essentially, she boiled it down to this. Your role is to be able to protect and provide for some woman or some female somewhere. I paraphrased it. But that's what an anthropologist said a man's use was. To protect, care for, provide for a woman. That's your role as a man. Right? I would think. Yeah. So let's go from there. We're going to page 4. Let's see. You're thinking to yourself, all right, well, yeah, all right, men, they get fucked in divorces. And so what's really the harm, right? So men are the only ones who suffer. Not necessarily. I found this story that happened in 2015. It was, let's see, I got it on the internet here. This guy named Kevin Sutherland, right? Yeah. I'll read it to you. Former congressional intern killed aboard a Metro train in Washington, D.C. on Independence Day. Was reportedly punched and stabbed during the struggle with his attacker. Witnesses told police. More than one witness. According to documents made public Tuesday. Blah, blah, blah. Is accused of killing, blah, blah. Recent graduate of American University. Seems like a good kid. Let's see. Court documents say one witness saw Spires, who was the guy who accused of killing him, attempt to take something from Sutherland, the victim's waist area, and they struggled over the item before Sutherland was punched and stabbed in the chest, back, sides, and arms. Witnesses, blah, 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 blah. Another witness told police that Spires stole money from other passengers after killing Sutherland. Medical examiner who conducted an autopsy, and hopefully you're building a picture in your head like I am, on Sutherland, told police officer that she observed 30 to 40 cuts on his body, 20 of them stab wounds, according to a document filed in the case. One stab wound struck his heart, another fractured a rib and punctured his lung. All right, why is this a big deal? Why am I reading this to you? Because this happened on a Washington train. It happened on a commuter train. All right, and witness after witness after witness. All right, and the attacker, he didn't have a gun. He just had a knife. I mean, and sure, it's a knife, but basically, this is how that goes down. Yeah, let's see. You've got all these witnesses who are watching this shit happen. Okay, and they're hiding. They're taking note. Fuck, I bet you some of them even had their phones out. You know what I mean? I bet they did. But you know what nobody did? anything to fucking help. All right, I pulled this off of a different report on the same incident. One male passenger recounts holding Sutherland as he died. Okay, like holding someone and dealing with their feelings doesn't jump out to me as manly. Not that it's unmanly. I'm just saying that I feel like your man role happened before that. He says this. He says, "What I don't wish," and this is a quote from that passenger, the witness. "What I don't wish is that I had somehow tried to attack the assailant. I am a little larger than he is, but I would not have won. It's scary because if we had been sitting closer and had seen the attack start, I probably would have tried to help and would have been stabbed." Well, fucking, how about this? How about the victim got stabbed 40 fucking times, only one of them killed him? You know what I mean? You can survive some cuts and some stabs. You'll be fine. You're going to bleed a little bit, but unless that fucker gets really lucky, you're going to make it, okay? You know what I'm telling you about that guy, that victim, or that witness? He's a fucking beta male, and he's rationalizing like a motherfucker, and he's a goddamn pussy. I'll tell you what, the police, of course, and the counselors who showed up to soothe the feelings of all these people who watched this shit happen, urged him to seek counseling. You know, this guy specifically, because he had witnessed something horrific. Let me tell you what. If that happened to me, if I was this fucking guy, not only is that shit going on, but I'm bigger than he is, and I don't fucking do anything, you know what counseling I'm going to need is how to deal with the fact that I can't sleep anymore because I know I'm a goddamn pussy. And I can't like, I would never be able to live with myself knowing somebody died and I didn't fucking do anything about it. I know that right now. I know that. That if something like that happened, I don't have a choice. I've got to jump in because I can't live with the fact that I didn't do anything. I know I would never be able to live with that. So I'm fucked. I got to take the chance. I might live, I might die, but if I live, at least I can live with myself. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how every dude in that train should have been thinking. It's just a knife, and fuck, there's a ton of us. How come nobody elbowed another dude and said, "Bro, let's get him"? I'll tell you what, we used to teach that shit to the football kids. You guys are brothers, and you've got to do this. You've got to make this happen. Look back at Columbine. There were some football kids who read about that. It's interesting. Yeah, so that's why I'm saying that this is what's happening to our society. This is where it's really hurting us, where men are no longer understanding their role as protectors, okay? That's a fucking problem. You know what I mean? You can't... That guy he cops to it. I might have been stabbed. He says, if I'd seen it start, I probably would have tried to help. Why does that fucking matter? Guy stabbed him 40 fucking times. There was plenty of time for you to do something, bro. You know what I mean? And you're going to go in there and, "Oh, buddy, it's going to be okay. Just go to sleep. It's okay. Go to the white light." What the fuck? Our society, you know? This is why men need to be manlier. Shit like this. Let's see. Did that. Page 4. So I came across this guy named David French, and he works for a couple of different newspapers, looks like. He's got a pretty interesting Instagram page, or I'm sorry, Twitter page, but I don't do Twitter, so I couldn't reach out to the guy. But he's an older dude. I don't know, he's probably in his 50s. He talks about being a kid in the early 80s, or like in high school in the early 80s, which, yeah, makes him probably 10 years older than I am, and playing Dungeons and Dragons and shit like that. But he also mentions that, you know, he didn't have any problem helping his dad build a porch or change oil, or, you know, he learned manly shit. Then he writes all this stuff about how, what I'm telling you, about how men are getting weaker. He's actually the guy who highlighted that article, and the one I just told you about, the thing that happened on the train. And that article is called "Men Are Getting Weaker Because We're Not Raising Men." And I'll tell you, I'm going to go back to the women getting stronger thing. So now women don't need you. You don't bring anything to the table. You know, they don't. They're getting your paycheck and they already have your sperm. Get the fuck out of here. Now who's raising the boys? Who's raising these young men? Well, it's women. You know, and basically you go to schools, elementary school and middle school, and even in high school, it's pretty much dominated by women. And as you get older, like in high school, I was a high school teacher, and there were a lot more men there, but in the middle school, way fewer, and in elementary school, almost none. So, again, the other adults that they're going to see, the other adults that are going to be around, are also going to be women. Where are they going to learn how to be a dude? Where are they going to learn how to do this? And maybe you're thinking this. Maybe you're thinking, well, women haven't had anybody teach them how to be women. Well, that's because it's a little bit different. And I got some research on that too. Yeah, let's see. It has to be an intentional act with boys. They'll either go one way or the other in the absence of a male role model. They'll either go to lethargy and apathy, where they'll just become fat slobs and not do shit, or they'll become the ones who really have a little bit more testosterone. They're going to be sexually aggressive, physically aggressive. Those are the ones who end up in jail. And in both cases, having a strong male role model can fix that. And again, that's what will happen to men without that strong male role model. Lethargy, laziness, apathy, having a guy there to crack the whip and get the fuck out there and cut some firewood, cut the grass, do this, do that, make them do the work, or at the very least, be a role model doing the work. Like we talked to, Ryan's dad was talking about that. He's like, man, I just led by example. I did shit, and Ryan just picked it up. And that's how it went. So they can, a strong male role model can fix that, and a strong male role model like we talked about with the elephants. You need mature, stronger elephants around to check those younger guys when they are overly aggressive physically. They need older men to slap them in the back of the head, figuratively or literally, and say, fucker, you can't do that shit. This is how men act. You know what I mean? With the experience of my years and my wisdom, this is how men are supposed to act. All right? It's got to be intentional. You got to be able to, as a parent, you need to be able to ignore those voices that are going to be out there that are going to, and shit, that little bleeding heart inside you that's going to, wants to be liberal and go, oh, just let them have what they want. I just want them to be happy. It hurts so much to say no. You're creating a fucking soft motherfucker when you do that. I don't know, man. The numbers bear out. So, so I covered that. Washington Post study. Yeah. Protector. Oh, here's interesting. We're talking about, again, men falling behind physically. Men are also falling behind women in high school graduation as well as college attendance and graduation. Men are more likely to use almost all types of illicit drugs at a higher rate than women. Thus, their prevalence of emergency room visits and inpatient substance abuse treatment. 93% of prison inmates are male. Let me say it one more time. 93% of prison inmates are male. Now, you can't tell me that. I would tell you of that 93%, 90% of them did not have a dad worth of shit. That's my guess. Okay? They didn't have anybody telling them what to do and what not to do and fucking letting them know, punishing them when they fucked up. You get that as a young guy, then it doesn't happen when you're an adult. I said it before, I'd rather have these kids fail in my classroom when they were 14 than have them go off into the world and think that they can just do whatever they want to, and now they're in jail. That's way worse. 98% of all death row inmates are male. It's like pretty much every one of them. Men are dramatically more likely to be homeless and for longer periods of time. And there's that lethargy, that apathy part, right? Internationally, males are becoming the weaker sex across the board. Yeah. Yeah. It sucks. And the problem, like I said, it isn't women. Good for you, women. Kicking ass. Men have become softer as a reaction to that. And it's not because of that. It's like, oh, she's got that covered. She's got that covered. There's nobody around here to tell me what to do and what not to do. Fuck it. I'm going to do whatever I want to, or I'm going to do nothing. That's what's happening. We are no longer raising boys to be men. We're not. We're just raising them to be people. You know, and the yeah, and people's good, but being a man is a real thing. It really is. Yeah, I covered that too. So I want to talk about this. Oh, it's over here. You guys all saw American Sniper, right? There's a scene in there called the Sheepdogs scene. If you guys get, you're on YouTube already, so jump in there and look that up. It will, it better if you're a guy, make the hairs on your neck stand up, okay? And I'm going to paraphrase it for you, but it's a scene, and it's Chris Kyle as a boy. I don't know, he's maybe 10. And he's sitting at the dinner table with his little brother who's maybe 7 or 8. And his dad starts talking, and he says, and it's in reference to this, what has happened that day. I mean, the younger brother, a bully's beating his ass on the playground, right? And Chris sees it, busts through the circle of fucking witnesses who aren't doing shit. And, I mean, because this kid's twice his size. Chris busts through the circle and puts a fucking whooping down on this bully. Puts him down. And so the dad is talking about it. And it really illustrates exactly what's going on in our society, okay? Because as dad's giving this speech to his sons, the mom is sitting there. And the dad says, there are 3 kinds of people in the world. There are sheep and there are wolves. Okay? I'll tell you the third kind in a minute. The sheep, they prefer to believe that evil doesn't exist in this world. And the wolves use violence to prey on the weak. Okay, so those are your first 2 kinds, right? So I would tell you that, sheep are like liberals. They think that, this shouldn't happen and that shouldn't happen, and we should make a bully-free zone, and we should make it to where the world is soft and all has bumpy. Everything has bumpers on it. Nobody's ever going to get hurt, and everybody can just feel good all the time. That's what sheep want to think. And I will tell you, great. You have that luxury. You live in this country, and you're able to create a world, probably a bubble like that to live in. Good for you. And then there are the wolves. Again, these are people who use violence to prey on the weak. And the third kind, he says to his sons, are sheepdogs. And if you look around, if you're a fan of Tim Kennedy like I am, he's got this company called Sheepdog Response, and where they're training people how to use guns and how to fight and how to do all these things to protect the weak. He says sheepdogs, they are blessed with the gift of aggression, and they possess an overpowering need to protect the flock. They are a rare breed, and they live to confront the wolf. We do not have people like that in the world anymore. Very few of them, certainly in our country. The sheepdogs, the men who live to confront the bad guys. Okay? If you were on that train and you watched that guy get stabbed to death 40 fucking times and let that dude leave there and nothing happened, and all you did is just get a good description and be thankful that you didn't get stabbed, you're not a man. You're not. If you can't provide for a woman, protect her, protect your children, make sure that you're providing things that she cannot provide for herself, again, past the money and the sperm, you're not a man. And that's our own fault. We're doing all that shit, and our world is getting softer and weaker, and nobody's saying anything about it. I don't have anything to lose, so I'll say something. I'll tell you exactly what's going on. Yeah, raising boys, it's an intentional act. And here's the thing. Let's just go back to the physical strength thing I started with. Never underestimate how important that is, okay? You have this ability in you. You start developing your physical strength, you're going to start developing your mental strength. Nobody ever got into the weight room and didn't get a little stronger mentally. Nobody ever did physical work outside and didn't get stronger mentally, okay? You start learning that there's a lot you can do, and there's a lot you can take care of, and that's a self-sufficiency thing. That's going to make you happier. It's going to make you better. And when you get to the point where you can start passing that on to someone else, do it. And it's fucking never too late. I wasn't the toughest kid. I wasn't the strongest kid, not even close. I would say I was pretty soft. I really was. But I chose to develop these manly things in myself. I chose to learn how to build things. I chose to learn how to be stronger. I chose to learn how to work on cars. I chose that. You can too. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 50 and decide, you know what? I fucking want to man up. And start doing it. And while you're doing it, if you have kids, they're going to see that shit. And then you can outright teach it, and then you can also be just teaching by example. It's never too fucking late. And I'll tell you, you never know your true, like your nature, like what's really inside you until you get tested. I think about, when I talked about my bully and him fucking with me and me finally snapping and going after his ass. You won't know where that is until you are actually in the moment. But tested, right? That's the word. Tested. If you're going to take any kind of test, you probably ought to be studying, right? Won't you feel so much more prepared if you're prepared? You know what I mean? Those people on that bus, if they had been preparing themselves mentally, like I talked about, how to be a hero, how to deal with physical and mental adversity, they'd have been more likely to make a move and save that man's life. Hell, if he'd have been tougher and stronger, he might have saved his own. You never know. Now, you think this isn't true? I'm going to give you one thing, and you be honest with me. You pick any age. Okay, it could be 20 years old, 30 years old, 50. You pick any age, guys, and then look at your dad at that same age. So you at 40 and your dad at 40, or you at 20 and your dad when he was 20. Who would win in arm wrestling? Who would win in a fight? Really think about that shit. My guess is he is going to beat your fucking ass. And that's because you are just not as manly as the generations that came before you. Sad but true. Sad but fucking true. All right? My name is Travis Neville. This has been the de-evolution of man. I hope like hell that this show today has helped you, at least in some way, to get your shit together. Have a great week.